Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. I know it's a little late, but first of all, welcome and pretty exciting, I guess, like last month or so for our examination. All right. So now, how do we use this session? So we have uh, maybe 6 weeks or so before your examination. So if you are my full-time, CFA student, you have studied with me, so you know how I teach. If you are new to this one, so this alone is not going to be enough. I'm assuming you already have studied some of the basics. For the next 1 month, you need to see areas where you probably didn't study, but I'm assuming you have at least studied some 50-60%, because we only have a month. You will not have enough time to study all the topics now. But this one is going to help people who are probably in the borderline. So let's say you are getting around 60%, how to get to something like 70%, right? So it will help you hopefully to move that 10%, right? So we all want to clear the CFA level 1 exam. It's okay to have a very high score, and it is helpful, but at the very minimum, we want to be above the MPS. So going forward, you know that the MPS for level 1 is 1600 scale score. So that is the your score between 1000 to 1900. You need to cross 1600. Okay, you need to cross 1600. So there are 900 points. And last time, that is your Feb exam, the average score was around 1530 or 1540. And so most of the students actually failed, right? And the 45% of the students scored above 1600. So that's what we would typically expect, 40 to 45% to clear the level 1 exam. You want to be above that 1600, right? So that's the goal here. So if you're taking a test, typically this mock exams, typically the 1600 is going to be in terms of percentage 70%. I mean, I'm using that percentage very loosely here. It depends on the difficulty of the mock exam. Some of the mock exams are harder, some of them are easier. So if it is an easier, you probably need to score more than 70%. If it is like the same level as the CFA Institute mock, then 70% is good. Sometimes you might need to score a little bit higher or lower depending on the difficulty. So I would recommend that you take a mock exam as soon as possible to see where you are. I know some of the students who came and said, I'm around 60%, 62, I'm nervous. So that it is for those students who are like, 55, 60, that hopefully we can push it above 70. And if you're already at 70, 75, that's great. So you're going to get closer to the 90 percentile, right? So that's a very good achievement for you in the future as well. So, but I want all of the students, around 20 odd, and particularly the people who have been attending for the last 6 months, right? I want you all to get above 1600. We want every one of you to clear this. So let's make this happen. And the first thing I want to say is uh, you need to be studying ethics. I'm not going to be doing a lot of ethics review because it's just not a very good use of our time, but it's something that you should be doing. People who are joining us for this last 6 weeks, you need to watch the ethics videos and then go to the curriculum, finish all of those examples and practice ones. Every day, half an hour from now until the end, every day try to read 5 to 10 pages. Very important. I cannot overemphasize. So these sessions are going to be around 45 minutes to an hour. So today I'm going to be looking at some topics in economics. Economics is one of those topics that I generally find students to be scoring less than the 70 percentile. So it's a very low, it's not a very high weightage in terms of the weightage in the exam. It is 6 to 9%, but we want to try to get above that 70% here also. So let's see what are the topics in economics. Econ has you can divide the topics into 4 categories, right? So you have the micro, which is your firm and market structures. Then you have 3 major macro: business cycle, fiscal, and monetary. Then you have trade and geopolitics. And the last 2 is your forex exchange rate, right? So each of the day, I want to do something around like 3 or 4 learning modules, cover some key points, concepts, and 5 questions. That's all we will solve. 5 questions each session. So today my goal is to look at the last 3 learning modules. The reason why I'm looking at it is because it's important. Forex, like if you look at CFA program, the level 2 economics starts with that, right? Exchange rate computations. So that's important. I mean, I'm sure you will get some questions from this topic. So whatever we do, we want to have a high impact. We can't look at all the LOS, all the topics. We want to pick and choose to try to boost your score by getting another 15, 20 questions correct. So getting that extra 10%. Okay, so today, let's start with exchange rate computation. So I'm going to be starting with the last learning module, then we will go up. It will be depending on the time, we will try to cover as much concepts as possible. So the first thing, hopefully everyone knows about how the foreign exchange is denoted in CFA. Right? In CFA, we are going to be using the F by D denoted. So F stands for the foreign currency or the price currency, and D is for the domestic or the base currency. So this is also, you can write it as price by base. So if I want to write 83, it's going to be the price currency here is rupees, INR per USD, right? So here, whatever this value is now. So let's say this is 86 rupees right now. I have to pay 86 rupees. That is the price for $1, which is the base value. The base value is always 1. I mean, whatever that currency is, here it is dollar, so it is $1. So $1 is equal to what? It's priced in that currency. So INR per USD. The way we would read this is INR per USD. So there are a few concepts that we need to know here. So today I'm going to cover 3 concepts related to this topic. One is your cross rates. It's a simple one. The other is your forward rates using arbitrage pricing. And then the price appreciation and depreciation. Cross rates, we'll start there. Cross rates are very simple, easy, and there's a good chance you will get a question. And the way you will compute a cross rate is by making sure that your denominators and the numerator in the multiplication is aligned so they get cancelled out. So what we mean by this is, first of all, why cross rates? So there are major currency pairs, major or frequently traded, and exotic or minor currency pairs. These are not frequently traded. Most of the times, if you want to exchange from one exotic pair to another exotic pair, you need to deal with a major currency, convert it into a major currency. If I want to convert rupees to say Mexican pesos, it might not be possible to do that directly, to exchange rupees to Mexican pesos or pesos to rupees. So if I want to be doing that, INR to Mexican pesos, maybe I need to have a in between a currency that is global, like a USD or Euro, Japanese yen, or something like Swiss franc. So what we would be doing is convert it into dollars and then converting it to pesos. So what quote you are looking at is something with that in between currency, the main currency, the major currency that you're going to in between convert before converting into the other exotic pair. So if I have rupee per USD and then I have Mexican pesos, I don't know the exact values now. Let's just make up some numbers here. So if I have Mexican pesos per USD values, how do I get the INR per Mexican peso? How many rupees for one Mexican peso? So let's give some values here. So let's say the rupee per dollar is 86, and then let's say this is 20, okay? Mexican pesos per dollar. The way you would calculate, as I said, a exotic pair like INR per Mexican is to have the middle, the intermediate currency cancel out, crossing out, cross rates. We're crossing it out. INR per dollar multiplied by dollar per Mexican pesos. And we would cancel this out, cross it out so that it becomes INR per Mexican peso, right? So what is the INR per Mexican peso based on these two exchange codes, INR per dollar, Mexican peso per dollar? Compute INR per Mexican peso. Okay, first question, simple one. Do you all understand the cross rate? We are crossing out the major pair by having in the one code that has the denominator and in the other code as the numerator. We cross it out, so it gets eliminated. Then you get the pairs, the exotic pairs as the final code, right? So if whatever they ask, if they ask Mexican peso per rupee, then you will use a different one. If they're asking INR per Mexican, where here the base currency is the Mexican peso, be careful with that. Be careful with that. And your price currency is Indian rupee. Let me do this computation. I will ask you to do the Mexican peso per rupee by yourself. So to do this INR per Mexican peso, as I said, we have to have it in this form, INR per USD. I'm a big believer in the calculator store and recall function. Use the calculator. Don't try to be, writing it out in the examination. Don't try to round it. So let's look at the INR per dollar that's directly given as 86. Store it in one memory slot. The next one we need is USD per Mexican peso. We have been given Mexican peso per USD, so 20. Then you take 1 by X. So this is your USD per Mexican peso. Store it in one memory slot 2. Recall 1 multiplied by recall 2. And that comes to 4.3 rupees per peso. Now, obviously, Mexican peso per INR, you can do it as an inverse of 4.3, but don't do it that way. Think that you have been given these two, then how would you calculate the Mexican peso per INR? So Mexican peso per INR, so you want to write the equation with the Mexican peso in the numerator and the rupee in the denominator, and the common currency here that you want to cross out is the dollar. So Mexican peso per USD is 20. It's given there. Store it in one memory slot. USD per INR is not given. So 86, you take an inverse, store it in another memory slot, recall 1 multiplied by recall 2. That comes to 0.2325 Mexican pesos per rupee. I want to move on to the next concept, which is forward rate computation. So before we get into forward rate computation, you need to understand how forward rates are quoted. Usually you're going to have the spot plus some forward points. So spot price is given, right? So this is your spot rate. And let's say this is, what is rupee, right? Say 86, we said. 86. Then the 1 week, 1 month forward rate could be given. I'm not writing all the time frames, but you get the idea. What happens is they're going to say plus, and they will say the points here. Maybe it is 6.5 plus 30.8. So this is my spot, and then the forward rates are quoted usually as points. Each point, to get to convert it into the forward rate, you're going to have 86. Right? If I want to convert to 1 month forward rate, very simple. You're going to take your spot plus that premium, whatever you are given, this except forward points they have given. So that points divided by 10,000. Right? So this is in pips. So you're going to be dividing this by 10,000. Most of you know this. But if you're forgotten, etc., very simple. So if I want to do the 1 month forward rate, so 86 plus 30.8 divided by 10,000. That's all we have to do. So the forward rate is 86.0030. How the forward rates are worked if they are given you a point. Now, if they have given you a spot rate and the rate of interest in the foreign currency and the domestic currency, they will ask you to calculate the forward rate using the arbitrage theory. So we are just trying to buy a security that is cheaper and sell a security that is more expensive. If there is a difference, we try to do that to make some risk-free profit, right? So here, if you just think about it, if I want to, so let's say I'm going to be getting a spot. Let's say I want to invest some amount, 1 unit of domestic currency. Let's say we want to invest for 1 period. One alternative, they say, is to invest for 1 period at the domestic risk-free rate, and at the end of the period, whatever the amount is equal to 1 plus the rate of return. If I have $1, let's say my dollar is my domestic currency and rupee is my foreign currency. So if I have $1, I can invest that $1 at the rate of return that I get for the domestic currency. Then what we will do, we will convert this into foreign currency, right? So using the spot rate, whatever is the spot rate, and then I will invest this at the Indian domestic interest rate, that is the foreign rate if you are a US investor. I'll repeat this again. The idea here is I have $1. I'm going to, let's say, get 4% in the US, and then in India, I'm getting, say, 8%. Okay. So I take the $1, so that $1 will become, if I'm investing for a year, it will become 1.04. Right? What is this 1.04? How can I do the other way to do this? I take $1, I invest in Bank of America, and after a year, it becomes $1.04. The other thing to do is convert that $1 using the current spot rate. So which means it will become 86 rupees. Then I invest in the Indian interest rate, which is 8%, right? So 86 into 1.08, and then I convert it at the end of the 1 year by a locked up rate, which is the forward rate, right? So multiply this with the, I want to convert it with the forward rate here. So let's say my forward rate, 1 year rate, I'm making this up, there is going to be a certain value at which I will convert, and that is going to be equal to 1.04. If I rearrange this term, I could have written this, let's say this is equation 1. I should have written 1 by the forward rate, because I want to convert that amount at the end of the year back to the domestic currency, right? So spot rate multiplied by 1 plus the foreign currency rate multiplied by 1 by the forward rate, F by D. Now, to most of the time, they're going to ask you to calculate the forward rates. Okay? But if you know this equation, let's say this is called as equation 1, you can rearrange this. So F by D is equal to, so just cross multiplying here, yes, F by D into 1 plus RF divided by 1 plus RD. If in this equation, I like the second equation because now you know whether the forward rate is going to be higher or lower just looking at the rate of interest in the foreign currency and the domestic currency. So here in our example, this is 8% and this is 4%. My spot is 86. So I know directly my forward rate in rupee per dollar, that is foreign currency as the rupee and domestic currency is the dollar, INR per dollar is going to be more than 86. right? Just directly substituting in this one, you can compute the forward rate. So it's going to be 86 multiplied by 1.08 divided by 1.04. That comes to 89.307. If the forward rate is not 89.307, we will have an arbitrage opportunity. If it is more than 89.307, we will sell the forward, we'll buy the spot, we will invest, in this currency at that particular rate, and you will make more than in the forward than in the spot rate. So that will cancel out, or the other way. So anyway, computation wise, very simple equation. Your forward rate is your spot rate multiplied by 1 plus the foreign currency rate divided by 1 plus the domestic currency rate. So this one was a 1-year forward rate. If it was given as a 90-day forward, then you just need to prorate that interest. So my spot F by D into, if I want to do this for 90 days, it would become 90 by 360 multiplied by that 8% divided by 1 plus 90 by 360 multiplied by 4%, right? And then you will get that forward rate, 90 days forward rate. Let's do that one quickly here. So 1.02 divided by 1.01 multiplied by 86. So my forward price, 90-day forward, becomes 86 point. Okay, I want to give you guys a question now quickly. Please calculate the forward rate. I'm going to give this from the curriculum. So let's say my current INR per dirhams, Abu Dhabi dirhams, is 22.5. The risk-free rate in Dubai is 6%, and that's the base currency, that's the domestic one. Always use the base currency as the domestic in the computation. And my risk-free rate in the Indian market says 9%. Compute 180-day forward. Assume 360-day for this computation. Assume 180-day, calculate the 180-day forward exchange price. Spot price is 22.5. All right, okay. So let's see the answer. So the spot is 22.5. To calculate the 90-day, 180-day forward, I need to multiply it with the foreign currency rate, the interest rate there for 180 days. So that is into 1.045 divided by 1.03. That comes to 22.827, right? So my forward 180-day for INR per AED is equal to spot INR per AED multiplied by 1 plus the 6-month foreign currency interest rate. So that is 4.5%. divided by 1.03. So you substitute that, you get the answer as 22. All right, the next question is about price appreciation and depreciation. This is from your prior chapter learning module about the exchange rate, capital flows, and the FX market, learning module 7. So in that one, there is a blue box example. I'm just trying to get that number to explain this. I want to move on unless anyone is still calculating. I want to move on. All right. So I want to do price appreciation and depreciation. The thing to remember is price appreciation, and very simple concept. Price appreciation and depreciation is only on the base currency. Okay? Don't try to do any fancy thing. Just compute it on the base currency. Let's take an example here. Let's say the price of INR per USD was 83 on December 2024, and March 2025 is 86. If they ask us to calculate anything related to the dollar, we can calculate that, right? So if they're asking us, in this case, the value of the dollar has gone up because for $1, it went from 83 rupees to 86. We are paying more rupees for $1. So the dollar has appreciated. Right? So the price currency has appreciated. You can think of this dollar as some kind of a commodity, right? Maybe an apple. So we used to pay 83 rupees. Now we are paying 86. So what happened to the value of the apple? The price has appreciated, right? So if that is the case, we can compute this appreciation in the base currency, but we can't calculate the depreciation of rupee using these two numbers. In that case, I need to convert this exchange rate with a rupee as the base currency and then calculate the depreciation. That's the thing. That's the only concept that we need to know here. So let's calculate the appreciation here. Appreciation is your holding period rate. So my 86 divided by 83 minus 1. So the appreciation is 3.614%. Can you please calculate the depreciation of the rupee of INR? So convert the quote with INR as the base currency for December 2024 and 25 and calculate the depreciation. Don't directly say it's minus 3.6. Please don't do that. Convert this into the rupee with the base currency and then calculate the depreciation. So the 83 you convert into the rupee with the base currency. So my quote is going to be something like this. Store it in one memory slot. This is for December 2024. I want all the decimals, so don't round it. The next one is 86 again. So this one is going to be 0.0116 something. Store it in a memory slot. So I want to do the holding period rate change. So recall 2 divided by recall 1 minus 1. And that comes to, in terms of percentage, minus 3.4883. It's very sensitive. So, if the answer is 3.46, 3.49, 3.51, you will choose 3.49. But to do that, you need to have all the decimals. Use your store and recall functions. So now let's move on to your 6th learning module. In the 6th learning module, the one thing that I want to talk about is tariffs. Everywhere, this is the talk of the town now with what Trump is doing. So some theory here, but it's an important concept. So this is learning module 6, trade restrictions and agreements, tariffs, quotas, and export subsidies, the effect of tariffs. What's a tariff, right? So like what Donald Trump is doing, he's saying like basically, if you want to export to us, you need to pay some extra amount, right? So we can do this mainly because we want to do some kind of a protection for our domestic industry, but also because maybe the exporting country is dumping those products. Maybe they are giving subsidy to the local manufacturing factories, and they are giving this really cheap products to crowd this marketplace and destroy the local economy. So to prevent that, you might have tariffs. Usually, it is not considered good thing by the economists. It is not a reason to do it if you're just looking at maybe, we want to save the local industry. But there are some strategic reasons, like, you want to protect your military, there's some strategic independence you want. If it's an infant industry argument where the industry is just starting and you want to give it some time. But let's go back to our supply demand curves. So I have my price and quantity. Price is usually, we are talking about it in the y-axis, kind of, even though price, I like to think of that as the independent variable, but economists like this as a y variable. And quantity, they think is an independent variable. So price and quantity. Okay. So y-axis is my price, quantity is my x-axis, right? So if I look at the supply, just without any imports, this is just domestic supply. It's going to look like this. And then I'll use this different color, guys. One second. This is just my domestic supply. And then let's use yellow for domestic demand. So it is going to intersect somewhere, right, at an equilibrium price point. So this is our domestic demand. Seems like a relatively elastic demand there. And we have some kind of a equilibrium price point, right? So this is where we are right now. Okay. Now, so this is based on our domestic supply and demand only. Okay. Now, if I ask the people to bring in any kind of goods from anywhere, so the price will come down to what is called as the world price or global price for this product. This is my domestic price that we are currently in, and we are buying this domestic amount quantity for that product. But let's say if the global price is somewhere there, then the amount of quantity that we can buy is going to be increasing here, right? So we see this one is my new quantity that we can purchase. This is my global, but at this price, my domestic suppliers can only supply this much. So this is the domestic supply, and the rest is what? This entire pieces importing from elsewhere, from global countries. We are importing it, and that's why the quantity has increased, because now the price has come down, because the price is now global price. Okay. Now this is what is happening. Initially it was complete blockade, only domestic supply. Now we open it up. Now what Trump is doing is, Trump is saying this global price is too low, maybe because they are doing some unfair practices, and also they are having tariffs on my exports. So let me add some baseline tariff. He said, like, let's do a 10% tariff, right? So he's increasing this price of the global products a little bit more, right? So he's increasing it. Now what happens is the demand will come down because the price has gone up. So this is the quantity with the tariff, and this is my price now with the tariff. Now, if you look at this one, the key points, there are two key points. First of all, the price has gone up, and it looks like this part, right? So this yellow part is a benefit to the government, right? But who has actually lost? The government gained, and the domestic people, the domestic producers have gained, because now they are selling a more quantity. This was the domestic supply without tariff, and now you have this much domestic supply with tariff. So the domestic people have gained, and the import that we were doing has reduced, right? So the foreign people, the companies that are selling here, has kind of lost a bit. But overall, the quantity has reduced. There are some areas that we completely lost, that we were previously having, that has come down. So the people who are lost is the consumer. The consumer initially had this entire surplus, this entire area. The consumer was having a surplus there. The consumer was willing to pay, this area was a surplus. Now they lost out. So the consumer is now paying higher prices. So the consumer surplus has come down. The domestic producer surplus has increased, but there are some areas that are dead spaces that has cropped up. So these we lost. This area is lost. This kind of couple of pieces we are losing out because of this higher tariffs. Okay, so the point here is, first thing, the prices go up, Second, consumers are the biggest losers when there are tariffs. Government and domestic suppliers gain, but the foreign exporters are losing. Those are the key takeaways. With that knowledge, let's answer this question here. In what ways would Mr. Raj, a consumer in a country that has recently introduced a tariff on imported automobiles, be impacted by this policy? So what's happening? Mr. Raj is in a country where they have introduced tariffs on automobile imports. And if someone is selling automobiles from a different country, they have to pay tariffs. Price of all automobiles, both domestic and imported, will likely decrease. Second choice, Mr. Raj will probably end up paying higher prices, whether it is domestic or imported, doesn't matter. He's going to end up paying a higher price. C, no impact. Choice A, B, or C. Right, so prices is going to go up. What was the global price has now become the tariff price, which we said, PT. That one is going to be higher than the global price, right? So that's the right answer. Choice B is correct.